Oh, from New York, New York, you are listening to Extra Time, presented by AT&T 5G. I am Andrew Wiebe with my partners in soccer. It is a beautiful Monday, and by beautiful, I mean oppressively hot and humid. David Goss is here. How are you sweating yet, Dave? Yes or no?
How am I? Yes or no? I don't know what that means.
Are you? I mean, just a general yes or no question.
Yeah, it's like, I think, real feel of 107 inside my apartment, but that's only with the wind blowing, which it's not right now, so it's maybe 114, 115. So I feel like Gareth Bale and Giorgio Chiellini, who's like, no one told me it'd be hot.
Could they survive podcasting in David Goss's apartment? TBD. As for how you sweat, I think the logistics of that we're all covered on. So Kalen Carr is here. Matt Doyle is here. We've got a big show coming up. We're rocking up Heineken.
I'm wearing a long sleeve.
It
should just speak to my mentality, just so you know.
So, Kalen, which fashion shoot did that long sleeve come from?
Which fashion shoot?
Yeah. I know that you're normally
Asbury Park FC.
Coming off a weekend, I know you probably had a couple of different fashion events that you were attending.
Yeah. No, not so much this weekend.
Well, you
I did go.
Yeah.
I actually did go.
Wow.
I forgot. I did go. I went to a tennis club fashion shoot.
I forgot about that fashion
memory.
shoot I was a part of.
Which fashion shoot are we talking about here?
That
one? Yeah, you even got the sleeveless Chivas warm-up out. Like
I
the
did.
Guadalajara, like OG goats, not the RIP goats.
Fun fact, I played a friendly for Chivas USA while I was under contract with Chicago. I don't know if they knew about it or how that all got arranged. But I drew a penalty against Chivas Guadalajara in the Estadio Jalisco, and it was an incredible trip. Afterwards, I think Martin Vasquez was the coach. He was like, make sure you go out and have a night out with the guys. And it was one of the best nights ever, maybe. It was super fun.
That's just good leadership from Martin.
He
just knows what a young guy needs in that moment. Draw a PK. Hey, get after it.
Well, also, I wasn't one of his players, so he's just like, go party, man.
Hit it up. No worries. Like, I'm not going to see you tomorrow morning. You'll be all good. Show up rugged if you need to. Coming up today from the AT&T 5G virtual studios, I mean, you know the deal. There were 14 games this weekend, all 28 teams in action. We are going to try to run our way all the way through it without going over 2 hours. Doyle suggested 5 minutes a game, but yeah, I know my team, and I just don't think we're capable of that.
Be a lot of stoppage time.
To be perfectly honest, I just didn't. It sounded great in theory, but you got to know your players, and I don't think we got that. So let's start and get into it, and we'll try to do our best to keep things brief and not to make people yawn and be bored during the LAFC inevitable Bale segment. Best thing you saw in Week 21, Doyle, get us started.
Taty Castellanos' farewell. And we're pretty sure it's a farewell. It's not confirmed yet, though. Reports came out this morning that he's going to be bought by Man City, essentially. And now City Football Group owns Man City and NYCFC. But they also own Girona, which just won promotion to La Liga. And the plan is going to be for Man City to buy him and then loan him out for at least a year. It seems to be heading this direction because none of the South American teams nor the interested European teams, Feyenoord was one of them, were going to hit the valuation that City Football Group had slapped on him. I kind of like this for Taty. He gets to go to one of the best leagues, second best league in the world at this point probably, and prove himself. And I think he's going to be great. I think he's going to absolutely kill it there. And I think he is going to end up doing kind of like a Jack Harrison thing where he plays his way into a permanent transfer for big money on a legit team somewhere in the Big Five rather than like a yo-yo team, which is what Girona is.
So
Probably
Doyle,
not a lone army guy, but we hope not at least.
NYCFC, Man City, Girona, 3 CFG teams. Can you name me the name of 2 more CFG-owned football clubs in the world?
Isn't the one that Taty used to play out
But can you name it?
Uruguay?
I
Torque?
can. Torque.
Okay,
Yeah.
Montevideo City Torque, but I'll take that one. Can you do one more for me?
And then
There's another city here. You got another city you could go to.
Is it Melbourne City?
Let's
Boom,
go.
There you go. Good job. They also
They just
own
did
Mumbai City. You could have gone Mumbai.
Yeah, they just did a Google
Not know
search.
that.
They were like, what are the names of cities that have football clubs we can call city? And if it starts with M, we're money. We're good to go. So, Taty's goodbye, we think. all of the signs are that he had a lot of hugs to go around, whether it be
And a
Nick
great
Cushing.
goal. I mean,
Yeah,
a
David Lee.
great goal to win the Hudson River Derby. This is the first time that NYCFC won a game in Red Bull Arena against the Red Bulls. They have won other games in Red Bull Arena, but the first time they won a game in Red Bull Arena against the Red Bulls in 5 years. So to score the only goal in that, have a pretty emotional farewell. It was a fitting sort of end to what we think an end to his time in MLS.
I believe I saw a stat rolling around on Twitter. I didn't check it. If it's wrong, sue me. That Taty is basically the leader tied for the lead in goals scored at Red Bull Arena since the start of 2021. Of course, NYCFC has played a few games in Harrison with 4 goals, and that's equal to as well as Patrick Klimala. So that'll tell you something about where the Red Bulls are at as well. Kalen, best thing you saw week 21.
I'm gonna go with two Real Salt Lake and go with Justin Miram not getting into the 50-50 club. I think 51 assists now, 50 goals. And that is rarefied air in MLS. So I remember seeing Justin come through just as a young guy with Columbus and being like, oh, this guy's got a ton of talent. We've now seen it on a bunch of different clubs across the league. And so, but yeah, I think that sort of that sort of category is really special because it's like it shows you're a creator, you're a goal scorer, you have that sort of balance, which is rare. We often see one or the other. And so to see him get into that 50-50 club, I think of guys like Diego Valeri, guys like that have done it before. That is pretty special and should be celebrated. So shout out to Justin.
Interesting thing too with Justin is that he's a 5 goals, 3 assists in his first 3 professional seasons guy. Like he's sort of worked his way into it sort of player. So it didn't just come from him from the start. So 50 and 51, congratulations to Miram. Dave, what about you?
I will go to, obviously going to focus everything I say on heat and weather over the next hour and a half.
Climate.
It's all about climate for me. And I'll talk about Alejandro Pozuelo, who my first reaction when he came on the field for Inter Miami for the first time ever was, is he wearing long sleeve shirt in July? And then it's like, oh, I guess people have their feels that, you get used to stuff. People like to operate in certain ways. Halftime, shirt gone, 3-goal comeback. Are you kidding me? Is there any better tactical move this weekend than Alejandro Pozuelo going from long to short sleeve? So that's the best thing I saw.
I think it's fair. You signed for David Beckham's club, and you just have a feeling that you need to go long sleeve no matter the circumstances. Big comeback for Inter Miami. They're hovering around that playoff line, but they were down 2-0 to Charlotte at home. They've been pretty good at home. 6 wins there. This was one of the 6 that came back and got a goal late on. Bryce Duke, the guy that Pozuelo seems to maybe be replacing, with a nice little pass to Emerson Rodriguez for the game-winning goal. And my guy on the Golden Boot team, Gonzalo Higuain, with an absolute worldie. 2 goals in 2 games. We're coming for you, Doyle. Tati's gone. I got a chance here. We're gonna redraft at some point. I don't know if Kalen's been groaning about that in the group chat or just sort of playing along with me, but maybe closer to the All-Star game, we'll get a little bit of a summer transfer window draft going on. The best thing I saw very clearly, Austin FC celebrating Copa Tejas in the parking lot in Frisco. A lot of parking lots in Frisco, but this was a special one. There's a long story as why they didn't do it in the stadium. It was an agreement between the supporters. Basically, hey, it's probably not good for the visitors to have a big celebration in our stadium. I guess for safety reasons, they thought. Anyway, Austin FC waited around. The players were literally doing the worm on the field, waiting for the Copa Tejas to be produced, and then they met up with the supporters in the parking lot. It's dark. You've got the neon green, I don't know, what is it they throw in their bass drums? You've got a full band out there. You have a huge visiting section, all these buses that came north on 35, and Austin FC absolutely getting down. 8 points from 4 games, 2 wins, 2 draws. Dallas had a chance to do it at home. They didn't. Losers overall in the Copa Tejas. But, I guess, look, a draw at home against your rival to lose Copa Tejas, technically I would classify as a loss, even though the result didn't go that way. But, hey, Austin FC out here 1 point shy of LAFC in the Supporters' Shield standings, having celebrations, winning trophies. You can argue amongst yourselves out there as to how much that matters. But for Austin, it mattered.
Are you implying that this is a bonus trophy, Weeby?
I didn't say that, but now I'm coming around to it. That sounds like sound logic to me, to be honest. All right, let's start with our top story of Week 21. No, it's not Gareth Bale. It could be Cucho, but he'll come next. It's got to be Taty in the Hudson River Derby. 1-0 to NYCFC. But yeah, it's Taty's goal, and it's the pass from Santi Rodriguez, who's turned into an absolute chance creation machine among the league leaders in assists. We saw that some in the playoffs last year. We talked through it. It seems like he's gone. So let's kind of dig into first the move, Girona for Taty, and the Jack Harrison treatment. Remember, Jack Harrison purchased by City Football Group, then immediately loaned to Leeds, and then that all worked out. Well, not to Leeds. He went somewhere else. I can't remember where now. But
I think.
Yeah, and he ended up at where Zach Steffen is. But he ended up back at Leeds, and that worked out well for him and ended up being a big transfer. What do we think about Girona, Kalen, as a destination for Taty? Is that disappointing? Is it fitting? Is it a good opportunity for him? What's it all mean?
I don't know. I might kick this over to Doyle. I don't know too much about that club situation, and it seems the one thing I will say is I just couldn't understand for the life of me why there aren't more bidders outside of City Football Group. I understand there were a few from South America, but it didn't seem like, from what I saw, the valuation was off. Like they were asking for way more than he was worth. So but I don't know. What do you think, Doyle?
I mean, my understanding is that they wanted 15, and they were getting bids around 12 and a half. So it wasn't a huge difference, but I guess it was enough for City to say, you know what, we can take care of this ourselves. If he plays well in La Liga, then we'll get our 15. We might even get more than that. As for Girona, like I said it at the top, they're a yo-yo club. They go up, stay up for a year, maybe two. They go back down. They're mostly in the Segunda Liga, though, with I guess with City starting to put more of their loan army talent in there. Not that loan armies are as big as they used to be with the new rules. They have a chance to maybe establish themselves as like a mid-table La Liga club. So in a way, it's kind of disappointing because it would have been dope to see. I don't know. There was talk about Leeds. Like if Leeds had come up with the money, and like Taty would have been a perfect fit there, and it would have been so easy to just sort of like transfer allegiances and kind of, because I'll be rooting for him the same way I rooted for Miguel Almiron. But it didn't work out that way. I think it's okay. He's where he wants to be. He's in Europe in a Big Five league. He's gonna get a chance to prove himself. And if he plays like he did for NYCFC the past year and a half, he will prove himself. And this, like, his development into like one of the league's most lethal goal scorers is absurd. He had 23 goals in his first 86 games for NYCFC. He's had 36 goals in his last 47. Like he part of it obviously is playing under Ronnie Dyla for a while really helped him. He got to play more as a center forward. Part of it is just maturation. Like he just is entering his prime and is an absolute killer out there. Replacing him for NYCFC is going to be really, really rough. I assume that Eber is going to get the first shot at it. It's Dave, since you're the Eber guy on this podcast. I mean, you're smiling.
Luis Suarez,
No.
just for the fun.
Yeah, Eber's in there. Obviously, Talis Magno will get looks as well, I think, in that spot. Pereira is an option as well. Thiago Andrade. I mean, they're loaded, right? Santi Rodriguez has the assist in this game. Max Morales has played phenomenally. Like, they just have a million options. Just last piece on the Girona part, I think it's a little upsetting to me because Taty's, as Doyle said, one of the best players we've seen in this league. He's 22 years old, 23. Sorry, obviously I never get
23.
ages right. He's 23. He's a Golden Boot winner, and that may not even be his best attribute. That's how talented he is, and so it's been confusing to me this entire time that, as Doyle mentioned, teams are close, but those numbers are becoming somewhat attainable for MLS players, and Taty's better than all those players in the same league. He's an Argentine, obviously not full international, played a little with the youth team, but it seems like his profile does fit what NYCFC and CFG is asking for. I have very little doubt he's going to go to Girona, dominate, and then get the move, whatever it is. And Christian Stuani, as everyone knows, the Uruguayan international, he's been the one constant at Girona over these years, and so he'll start up top with him, which I think is a perfect pairing for Taty to find the game and do what he does best. But on the NYCFC front, we've probably never seen a team that has a player of this quality, and you can honestly say they won't need to go out and replace him. And they will still be an MLS Cup contenders, if not favorites, coming out of this season. And it just goes to the depth they had. Eber was the starter. He got hurt. Taty took over. Eber has shown, I think, over the last few weeks, flashes that he is ready to get back to that level. And Talas Magno combines creativity and entertainment with quality and production, probably as well as anyone we've ever seen in MLS. And he's still just a young player who's getting better and better.
I
mean,
as
Joel,
well as anyone we've ever seen at that age.
Yeah, fair, right. Yeah, he's not a go-to carry the team player, but
He's not Carlos Vela 2019 or.
But he
Seth
tries
Davinka
stuff that Vela
2015.
wouldn't have tried.
He's
in a
fantastic. I
different
think
way.
he might already be. I think he might already be the best winger in MLS. We should spend a minute here on the Red Bulls. Like how much of
we'll
what the
get to
Red
him.
Bulls.
We'll get to him. Don't worry. We'll get to him. Can I just say
We're
that
doing 5 minutes a game.
We're not. We're not. I told you. I know my squad. And I know myself. And I'm not putting out a team that's conservative.
Okay.
I'm not coming in here saying we're only giving 5. I want to throw out Nahuel Bustos as a name to think about when it comes to Taty and Girona. He's a Man City loan guy, 24-year-old Argentine who was there the last year and said goodbye. So this seems like a pretty direct replacement for him, and it's a pathway that Man City knows well. I'm just happy to see him in Europe. I didn't want to see him go back to South America. I thought for NYCFC's developmental path and all these young players like Talas Magno coming through, you want to see him make that next jump, and hopefully Taty was the first. And I think that's why we all wanted to see him sold for the 15 mil or whatever it was, and have it just be sort of done, money in the bank, have some sort of like precedent established, and maybe that will come. It happened for Jack Harrison, and we know that Taty is a pretty determined guy. Let's not just walk away from Taty too quick, though. We have some questions. Ethan Moore asks, what's your favorite memory of Taty if this was his last game? Again, it certainly seems to be his last game. I can start on that one. I think Eastern Conference semifinals last year, pure Taty essence of just desire, wins the race to the back post, that header to put NYCFC up 2-1 in the 108th minute, and then literally 2.5 minutes later, insane tackle to get his second yellow card, to be sent off, to then be suspended against Philly, but then to come back and be a stud in the MLS Cup final as well as NYCFC make history and win their first MLS Cup. So that 5-minute span for me is my favorite memory of Taty. Anybody else have one that stands out? A goal, a moment? Maybe with his mom, that would be a good one. Remember didn't he win the Golden Boot, and then his mom came and surprised him, and he was crying in the locker room? Like, that was a super human moment.
I think that was on decision day, right? Or what?
I think it was afterwards. It was at training.
Was it?
I think, yeah.
Okay.
But they had her bring it for him.
The decision day one for me stood out like from last year. I think they got a red card. I think Gideon Zalalem got a red card during that match. It was the last game of the season. And I remember thinking like, this is kind of, they were fighting for their playoff position and how it was all going to go. And I thought they were going to kind of tank. And they fought back and scrapped, and he scored an important goal in that one. And for me, I just felt like towards the end of last year, he flipped a switch as a leader on the team. Not so much just with like finding goals, but finding important goals in the right moments, and he continued that through the playoffs. And that's sort of the part that I think has switched for him over time in his development of like, yes, his strike rate has improved for sure, his chances, but I think in the bigger moments as the seasons have gone on, or as we saw again in the bigger matches, like over the weekend against New York, haven't won there in 5 years. Like, he seemed to always be able to find that extra gear, find that moment, even in matches where he wasn't. Before it was maybe he needed to be a volume chance creator or a chance fit where he'd get like 5 chances and finish 1. And now suddenly it was looking at 2 chances, 3 chances. He's going to get 1. He's going to get 2. And in the big moments that mattered, he did all the way to MLS Cup. So, but that decision day one kind of stood out to me. I don't know why, just as far as like pushing them towards the back half. And, shout out to Sean Johnson for making all those saves in the penalty kick shootouts as well. But, and the whole team. But I think that's the piece that makes me a little worried, probably a little more cautious than Goss is around like projecting forward towards finding those meaningful moments. Yes, they have a ton of magic players, but Santi sometimes can be he can be really on and then can kind of disappear. Talas Magno as well. They've got a number of weapons to help balance it out, but for me it was Taty always that was like in the big moments, he was the guy that could find an important goal, which still for me is what wins you in the playoffs or towards MLS Cup.
The one that stands out to me, similar to Kalen's obviously a little earlier though, was actually at MLS's back. If you remember, Toronto had gone to MLS Cup in 2019. Eber got hurt at the end of the year, and then they played TFC in the first round of the knockouts of MLS is back, and he scored a really good goal, and he was pressing all over the place. And it kind of felt like a changing moment of like, this is Taty's team, one, but two, like he can be the guy to elevate them from the story, which was best team in the regular season for the last 3 years combined, but falls apart in the playoffs. And they had done that the year before against Toronto. And so I just, for some reason, that game always stood out to me of coming back from that playoffs and then going into that game. And it was one of the first knockout games of that as well. So we didn't really know what the whole thing would look like. And I just remember him being himself, which was always a threat, constant pressing all over the place. I don't know, maybe Omar Gonzalez was playing in that game or not, aka I think Taty just eviscerated him over the course of that game, and he scored a really, really clean finish at one point where it was like, here comes the other half of his game, and since then, as Doyle laid the numbers out, he sort of hasn't stopped.
Doyle, here's something for you. Producer Phil, who we know and love, editor on Instant Replay and many other things over at MLS. Where would Taty fall in the best MLS exports power rankings? And then Coach Joe, when it's all said and done, who will have the better European career, Taty or Miguel Almiron?
I think for the second one, I'm going to go with Taty. And I think Almiron's a spectacular player. He just went to the wrong team in the wrong league. I think if Almiron had gone to a team that better fits his skill set, he would have had a spectacular career. That didn't really happen for him. What City Football Group have shown is the ability to be patient and make sure that when they sell these guys on, they get them to clubs where they can perform. And that's why they're able to sell these guys for more and more and more over the course of years. Where he stands as an MLS export, the top tier. Well, Alphonso Davies is in a tier by himself, and then the tier down from that is guys like Tim Howard, Tyler Adams, on down the list, DeMarcus Beasley,
Clint
Carlos.
Dempsey.
I think he's going to end up in that tier. I think he's going to end up being about that good.
Okay, Justin Egan, and we'll end on Taty here. Should I crawl into the fetal position because Taty's gone, or is NYCFC going to be okay? We know Dave's take on this.
I'll answer, they're going to miss him badly, and it's going to exacerbate this really weird problem that's cropped up for them since Nick Cushing took over. Like, we saw it last weekend against New England. We saw it throughout the Dallas game. We saw it in a number of games before that. It didn't happen against the Red Bulls because the Red Bulls don't possess, right? They don't use the ball, so that actually played to NYCFC's current defensive strength. But the issue with NYCFC is that they're really passive in their defensive half under Nick Cushing. They let you knock the ball around. They don't get pressure to the ball like they were doing under Ronnie Dyla. I'm actually more concerned, this game against the Red Bulls, it's a really good win. By every measure, it's a really good win. It should not overshadow the current weakness that this team has shown for the past 2 months. And the numbers, across the board in terms of getting pressure to the ball have dropped since Nick Cushing took over. And he didn't really address it in the postgame, but he did say something to the effect Taty was a real trooper. He bought into all the adjustments that I made. And I'm sitting there thinking, why did you make those adjustments? Why? What is the point of them if it's making you easier to play against? And right now, if I was an NYCFC fan, I would be more concerned about that than I would be about replacing Taty, because I think between Eber and now whatever amount of money and open DP slot they have, they can go out on the market and maybe find the next Taty. So I don't think anybody should go fetal, but there's reason for concern in the Bronx, even though they're up at the very top of the Eastern Conference.
Come on, Luis Suarez, man. Short term.
He would be a great fit.
Just go short term. You have Maxi in a window that's not forever either. Go win another championship.
18-month contract. See if that happens.
What about what they've done over the last 4 years makes you think they're going to go short term and sign
Well,
Luis
because
Suarez?
they have all those guys. They have a squad of dudes that he can
don't know.
amplify.
I don't know. Yeah. Okay.
I'm just trying to speak it into reality.
Yeah.
Dave.
I'm looking at a
loud.
guy in a little box in an NYCFC jersey, and I'm just talking back.
Yeah, no, I feel you. How about concerns for the Red Bulls? And we'll move on, Dave.
Well, the concerns are for the individual, whoever it is up top, as a goal scorer. But I thought in general it was a good performance from them. I thought they created a bunch of chances early on. I thought that they had the opportunities to put themselves ahead. Luquinhas looked good again. I thought Casares was awesome. Amaya was really good as well. And then they get beat by a moment of brilliance. That's a perfect ball over the top, and it's an unbelievable finish from Taty, and I don't know that most teams in this league are capable of that. So for the Red Bulls, I wouldn't say it's a big panic moment of any sort. And
It's a little panic moment.
I mean, if John Tolkien takes the 2 half chances better in that first half,
if
they're up 1-0.
if your left back can just start banging in goals, then everything is fine.
I mean, he's a borderline
Like,
U.S. national team player who's maybe a center mid. So
I mean, he's good. Don't get me wrong, but like this is a team that needs goals, and they've, Gerhard Struber is pretty much done with Patrick Klimala based upon what we've seen over the past month. That's one, and two is it's not a coincidence that the high pressing team that runs themselves to death every single game started fading at the 60th minute. And Struber didn't make subs until, well, he brought on Tom Barlow. But other than Tom Barlow, he didn't make his subs until like the 77th. Like, this is a pattern that we've seen with other pressing teams. I think we saw a bit with the Red Bulls last year, though they did turn it around in September. Like, I don't know. Like, this one worried me from a Red Bulls perspective because they don't have the ability to brute force a win. They don't have a guy who could just go out there and overwhelm you with quality and get a goal.
But hasn't Luquinhas and Lewis Morgan been that for a ton of this year?
No, I mean they're good players, but they're getting their goals within the scope of Red Bull's overall system, right? They're not creating this crazy goal out of absolutely nothing or just like absolutely dominating a guy in the box. It's coming from the Red Bull system. Well, if the summer and the lack of rotation and the shortened depth chart means the system's not as effective, that's a worry.
Can we check the time here? Is that 5 minutes? Over, under, where are we at on that? Yeah, okay. Crew Cincinnati. Let's just talk Cucho here. A ton of questions about that, but Dave hit the group chat this week and said, if someone does the research on the 7 players in MLS history to score in their first 3 appearances, I'll do the guessing tomorrow. So it's time to do the guessing. Doyle said he had the list. Let's get to guessing. I will start us off. Charlie Davies.
You got it. I was hoping nobody would get that.
I know.
But yeah.
I know. Charlie. I threw the question at Charlie in a pre-show meeting for MLS After Dark last night, and he said, I did that. And I said, don't say that on air. Don't say that anywhere else. I'm taking it off the jump. So we took Charlie Davies off the board. Obviously, Cucho is one of the other ones. So we have 5 players left. Dave, who was on your mind? First to score in their first 3 games. For three appearances.
You have 6 players left. You have 6 players left.
So Cucho was a part of this.
Total.
Okay, got it. Now I'm understanding better.
How many of them are DPs?
Oh, jeez.
Can I throw one out? And we're just guessing here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I throw Pipa Higuain out there?
He was not.
Dang. He was
I'm going to
good to
guess
start.
Luciano Emilio, another DC player.
Ooh,
Nope.
hell yeah.
Nope.
No,
Okay.
not Luciano Emilio.
Javinko?
First 3 appearances.
Nope.
Jermaine Defoe.
Nope.
Marco
Zlatan.
De Vaio.
Nope.
Zlatan.
Nope. There is one recent DP, very reminiscent of Cucho, like the same type of player, same
Joseph
type of
Martinez.
energy. Not Joseph,
Same type
but
of player and
same
Gustavo
same
Bou?
build. No,
I know, but I
You
just
can't
remembered him
outrun
being
me.
big.
How is he like Cucho?
Oh boy.
All right, so I'm going to skip that one. We'll come back to it real quick. I will say that there are 2
Taxi
former
Fontas.
There are 2 former MLS MVPs on this list.
Robbie Keane?
Nope.
Mike McGee?
Rui Diaz.
Nope.
Landon Donovan with San Jose.
Nope. But right era.
Carlos Ruiz.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
All right.
Finally.
So one
That
more
was bad.
MVP.
This is poor. This is
Yeah,
So
bad.
there's
this is
another
bad.
MVP in here. This has
Yeah,
been poor.
like from that
Christian
exact
Gomez.
era.
Christian
No.
Gomez.
No.
Jaime Moreno?
No.
Preki?
No. 2001 MLS MVP.
Alex Pineda Chacon, that would have been.
You got it. He's one of 2 Hondurans on the list. Who's the other Honduran?
Amado Guevara?
No.
Carlos Pavon?
No.
Carlo Cosley? I got you.
Jerry Bankston. Yeah.
Still playing in MLS.
Kyoto.
Yes.
Wow.
I'm good at this game with a lot of guesses. A lot of scattershot.
The others are Brian Fernandez. That was the DP who reminds me of Cucho.
Yeah.
Octavio Rivero.
Amazing.
Remember him
Yeah.
from Vancouver?
Whoa.
And then the last one, the one that, like, literally a name I had completely forgotten about. Like, I could not picture this player. I had to go back and dig out video. Diego Chavez from the Chicago Fire in 2011. He scored 3 goals in his first 3 games, 4 in his first 5.
Dude,
Then
I was on the team in 2011.
What are your? Give us a specific Diego Chavez memory.
I've got to Google him. I have no
20
idea.
games. He went scoreless for 20 games, scored in his final game, never played in MLS again.
Whoa.
He barely has a Wikipedia page. This guy is a ghost.
Diego. What's up, Diego?
Anyway, Crew 2, Cincinnati, nothing. Lucho Acosta still suspended. Pat Noonan not happy about that. It comes down to not just the headbutt. I believe there were some issues that Lucho had with the referees as well in that match, and I think that's where some of that suspension comes from, the additional suspension. It's Cucho's first start, same result. He is the first ever, by the way, and we have all these that scored in the first 3 appearances, but he's the first ever to score 4 goals in under 90 minutes of game action to start his career in MLS. That is insane. Nice little flick header at the near post. Good service from Lucas Zelarayan. A lot of mail on this one. Sam Whitaker, is Cucho Hernandez on track to be the best goal scorer in MLS once Taty leaves? If so, how do small market teams replicate the Columbus recruitment strategy to attract similarly talented players? Faith, which is a Cincinnati fan, she says, how long do you think Cucho will stay in MLS? Please say not long. And then Brahma Ghosh says, is this finally the Crew team we all thought was going to dominate last year? They have a ton of home games remaining. I believe the most home games in MLS. Quality of Cucho, best goal scorer in MLS. How long will he stay? I mean, people are getting way ahead of themselves, but this is as good as it could possibly get. Kaylin, it's Diego Chavez-esque, you might say.
I
mean, hoping out for the drought.
I don't see why you would be concerned about him leaving. This feels like the type of signing that once you come, you've made your decision, you understand exactly, what you're walking into, and you're now gonna likely have this player for a while. I just think, when you come into if we come into a place like Columbus, I think he just got sold on the project, and that was the exciting part, was to say we've seen so many of the other times where now we're like, hey, Taty is going abroad. How does that look? What does that look like in Europe? Or what does it look like for Miguel Almiron? Imagine him in Europe. What would that be like? Or you look at a lot of other young players in MLS. This is kind of the opposite, where you're like, I know what this looks like in Europe. Now we get to see what could this possibly look like in MLS, and we're already seeing that coming good right away. As far as it relates to the team, I think Caleb Porter deserves a lot of credit. We criticized him, I think fairly so, for his comments when Jossie was gone, but at the same time, we're seeing that they had another level, another gear in their team, and that has now come good with this player bringing into the mix, because it had looked pretty predictable at times. It looked plodding, slow, and now Cucho has come in and really energized it with. He's had a lot more to his game than I had seen previously. I mean, I'd seen his incredible finishes in the box and scored against, some big clubs in the past, but his ability to help create space for others, his ability to find passes and connect. At times I'd even looked at Zelarayan and said he looked more of like a solo player at times, like he didn't really combine well with others. Now those two look to be building a nice relationship. So I've seen a lot of what I've seen so far. He's really connected this dots to think that they could really push with that schedule as well towards the back half of the season. Kind of the way we've seen Rui Diaz when he came in with Seattle and took them to another level and immediately kind of hit the ground running. That's the type of expectations or impact I think you can expect.
Yeah, I agree with Kalen.
They are in the playoffs right now, 29 points, by the way.
I agree with Kalen, though. He has shown a ton to his game outside of just being a finisher. He seems open to covering different parts of the field. His connection with Zelarayan is quick. Zelarayan's picking his head up early, looking for through balls, trying to clip balls over the top to him, rather than just trying to create in the final third once they've already progressed as a team, which has been such a huge part of Columbus's issue, is they don't take advantage in transition, and then it becomes plodding and slow, and they sort of have to pick away. I don't think it... Listen, Cucho Hernandez, obviously, record signing, big money. That's most of what's going on. But I don't think it's a coincidence that Aiden Morris is back and healthy, and he's been in the starting lineup every one of these games. He's special, and he does things that no one else in this team does in both sides of the ball. And I think with Zelarayan and Cucho now being a part of the attack, and Morris starting to be able to play alongside Nagbe, push up and find interesting moments to become a part of the attack, I think that's a really big plus for this team as well. I don't think they're the team I thought they were last year. Defensively, they're just not as clean 1v1 defending as they could be, and so they need to use, and if they use a lot of their pieces to get involved in the attack, when they turn the ball over, they look exposed, they look open, but they are still better than what we've seen over the last 12 months, which was not a playoff team.
They're above.
He's 23 years old. Is that right?
Yeah, that was going on in the chat. This is always a challenge for Dave.
Yeah.
Try to put your finger on it. Paul asks this, vibe check on Cincinnati, Doyle. Going to miss the playoffs unless they make a Miazga level signing, right? Or does Lucho's return let them limp to a low seed?
I mean, it's insane to try to predict anything in the playoff race right now. I got the standings page open. Between 1.1 points per game and like 1.4 points per game, there's 8 teams in the Eastern Conference. It's just like they could get hot, they could do it at Miazga level. Center back signing would certainly help. I think they need fullback help as well. Getting Matarrita back will be good for them. But they have a shot, just like every other team in that mix has a shot. They just got to get their mojo back a little bit. Lucho would help, but I would struggle to bet on any of those teams in the mix to make it or to miss it.
There's literally not a team in the East that I would definitively put money or something significant in my life on the table and say they have no chance. That just period, they won't make the playoffs. DC's only played 19 games. They're spoon holders right now, but they have 2 open DP spots. Wayne Rooney came and they were in last place in the East. They made the playoffs. They don't have Wayne Rooney to sign as a player. Let's be clear about that.
Lings.
It's going to be it's going to be silly down the stretch. And Cincinnati has every chance. In the past, they didn't have a chance. So that's a pretty good vibe check on them. Nashville 1, LAFC 2. We're almost 40 minutes into the show, people, and we maybe said Gareth Bale 2 or 3 times just in reference. Giorgio Chiellini starts for LAFC on the road. He plays 60 minutes. I know Dave loved the Eddie Segura, forehead kiss on the way out. I mean, that's just a special moment. He truly understands what's happening at the club. Eddie coming back from injury, of course. This is his 3rd appearance. But gets 60 minutes there. Gareth Bale comes off the bench for 20 minutes. Both comment on how hot it was in Nashville. I do believe it was like 91 or 90 plus in the dark. The darkness
What
of
was
night.
that? What was
So
it in KC at the same time? Because that's where they go
not
next
that hot.
week. Okay.
I know, but it's super hot. This week is a good week in Kansas City because it's only over 100 on the highs 3 times. So that tells you sort of where we're at. And they go to Texas
3
times to all three cities in Texas in late August and September, and it's notoriously
They say it's balmy nowadays.
a Mediterranean climate there in
Yeah.
Texas at that time of year. Very cool winds coming in.
Basically
and
like
just,
playing in Nice. That's the
Right,
best
yeah, it's
comparison.
beautiful. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. So let's get the thoughts on Chiellini. Anybody have thoughts on Chiellini's hour? Big win for LAFC on the road as well. Nashville still look a little punchless.
He was fine. He's not going to win many foot races. And he came out and said afterwards, wow, they counterattack a lot here. So I think it just reaffirms what I thought about this signing, which is they're going to have to be smart about who they use him against and how they play when they have him out there. Because if they're, if you're going against a Sounders team in the playoff that's going to counterattack you to death, I don't know if Chiellini's the right guy. But I thought he looked good. He looked bought in. And for the most part, he looked fit, and then they subbed him off at the right spot.
Weeby, you said you wouldn't bet on anything in the Eastern Conference, so here's one. 1.5 over under that Chiellini plays 90 minutes in an MLS regular season game this year.
Oh, I'll go over easily.
No
I'll go over too.
chance.
I'll go over easily.
5 subs per game. They've got 97 center backs. No chance. All right, there you go.
All right, that's what
There
you
it
gave
is.
me. I mean, 1.5 is a charitable.
It is a charitable one. I was
that-
going to
I mean,
do
that- you're-
0.5. So I'm glad
wow.
I didn't.
Oh, wow. I thought you were handing it to me at 1.5. Hey, Gareth Bale, did you see he had a nice touch to start? I don't know if anybody saw that.
Wow.
Anybody on social media or a little, like, a little pullback back heel? Just making sure in case you hadn't seen that at MLS. Might have seen it there on any number of on Twitter accounts.
Sky Sports.
Yeah, Sky Sports. What'd you tell Sky Sports about the Gareth Bale debut this morning, Kaylin?
I think there was obviously a lot of eyes and excitement on it, and they'll pick up kind of anything that he's doing right now and trying to keep an eye on it. I mean, it was funny because I mentioned like his preparation for playing in the World Cup in Qatar and the heat and humidity that Chiellini and Bale had both mentioned, but right now there's like a record heat wave in the UK, so that point didn't really stand as well as if he would have been playing over there. Although, but yeah, I mean, there wasn't a ton for me as far as like incredible debuts of the past when we think of like star players who've come on and, come off the bench with, nobody will ever really live up to what we saw in El Tráfico with Zlatan. So, but yeah, I think the plan was to get 160 and the other 20, and that's just how you start building your way into a team, and coming in this late in the season is difficult. And both guys I thought looked at least fit, and, to come off the bench and have at least be sharp was good. He didn't seem to really Bale moved around a little bit where I think he started on the right-hand side. Towards the end, he had to make a couple track back runs to get back defensively on the left, which I think probably raised some eyebrows, at least from my perspective when I was watching it, to be like, is this what he wants to do? Is this something he's going to do? This is day one, but how does LAFC kind of find a way to protect him from having to do that as much? We didn't see him in the middle of the pitch, which is something that Charlie Davies and I had talked about at a certain point, as like if he was going to maybe take the 9 position. Even when Arango came out, I think it looked like they moved Vela towards the 9 spot. So it seems like they want to use him a little bit more on the wing. So I think there's still some work to be done to figure out where he fits best, even in a role where he's coming off the bench to begin with. But yeah, we didn't get to see that opportunity where I think you guys mentioned it, Segura. I don't know who was it, took the shot and basically
he
took
stole
right
it from
him. Or like a really
he got kissed on the head by Giorgio. Like he's blessed. He's got to go for it after that.
You're feeling yourself there. Yeah. But I think just like there's still a lot more to be done. So for me, it was just kind of like a nice entrance, get him going, but and obviously the intrigue of like, what does this look like? But I think there's still more questions than answers as far as how these pieces all fit.
What does it look like, Doyle, to you, and what should it look like? And what did you make of Michele Giannone's reporting on sort of Cherundolo's comments on Chicho Arango in a game that Chicho scored, but Cherundolo going back to defensive work rate and how it wasn't there, then it was there, and it wasn't there in this game, but then Chicho gets a really nice Chicho goal and has scored like 6 and 7. I mean, there seems to be something to work out with this front three.
There does. Chicho Arango, I get what what Cherundolo's concern is in terms of defending from the front. Like, you can't be a pressing team if you don't have good defenders from the front. But like Carlos Vela is not a good defender from the front anymore. Gareth Bale is, that's never really been his strong suit. So if you go 0 for 3, then that's not great. You end up getting stretched out. Your midfield has to come way up. That exposes center backs, and suddenly you're dealing with gaps all over the field. I think that's what he's afraid of. The solution, which is, it seems to be to play Vela as a false 9, and then have Bale on one side, and then presumably Brian Rodriguez, who they still rate, on the other side, sort of crashing in from the wings. I think that's a very imperfect solution, because I don't think Vela works particularly well as a false 9. I think he drops back so deep that he actually clogs the midfield and ends up taking the ball off the foot of guys like Kellen Acosta and Jose Cifuentes, who are really good at both playing in tight spaces, but also at making the field big. making it, stretching it both, laterally and vertically in order to put your attackers into spots where they can go one-on-one and beat a guy, or where they can just find space. So I think what we're going to see, and what we did see for the final 20 minutes last night, was a team that was kind of muddled, and your two best players are kind of trying to occupy the same spaces, and like stuff doesn't fit intuitively. They have a lot of talent. They'll be able to brute force some wins, but this is not going to be a plug and play type of thing, like Cucho was in Columbus. Like, he instantly elevated not just the attack but the entire team because they could play on the front foot more. With this, it's like, as great as Gareth Bale is, because the pieces don't fit together up top, I expect it to be pretty rocky for a few weeks, maybe even through the end of the regular season at least. But the thing to remember is that they didn't bring in Chiellini and Bale to win a Supporter Shield. They brought them in to win MLS Cup. So as long as they're playing well and have it figured out come October, they'll be fine with a few rocky weeks, or even 2 rocky months right now.
I've got a remedy for rocky or disjointed attacking play. Sporting KC's back line, come on down in Kansas City next week, and we'll see how that goes. Shaq Moore to Nashville reportedly done. Dave, how you like that one?
It's
crosses in from the right side. Here they come.
Yeah, it's been one of their bigger weaknesses in the team. Obviously, they lost Alistair Johnston, hadn't actually replaced him, and now you bring in a guy who, one, gives you the flexibility to either play 4 or 5 in the back, and he'll be out there in both setups, where with Muil, you're sort of shifting depending on what you're playing along the back, and a better defensive option than all of those guys combined. And then, as you said, start to get more crosses in, which maybe makes Sapong, or now Teal Bunbury, getting a bunch of minutes again, back from injury, and Zubac somewhere on the bench. Maybe it makes those guys more effective rather than just relying on Hani Mukhtar and his creativity and him finding openings alone 100%. This isn't a team. I don't think this is a move that elevates them into a different space, but it makes them better at the things they already do, which they've struggled at over the last few weeks, especially at home.
Copa Tejas. Oh, go ahead.
Smart move. I was just going to say a smart move for Moore, I think, just with his eyes on the World Cup. We've seen Yedlin come back and do really well with Miami, and that's kind of pushed him forward. So I think Moore coming into a system that I think suits him, that is going to give him opportunities to play week in, week out in front of the audience. And then, I think they really do need that width to be getting forward, because sometimes when they try and attack, often it's with Hani and CJ and the two of them. And if that works really well when they turn the ball over and they get it and those two get into open space. But if it's going against a lower block, they need to use the width a little bit better. And we've seen them in the past do that with Johnson, and now they have that option again on the right-hand side.
On Climate Watch, I think I'm going to go Canary Islands over Nashville, but that's more of a David Goss topic to dig into on a different podcast. Copa Tejas, FC Dallas, Austin, 1-1. We talked about it. Great celebrations for Austin in the parking lot. Diego Fagundes with a goal here. I want to say this is like the first open play goal for Dallas in month and a half, 2 months. I don't know. It's 7 straight without a win for FC Dallas.
First open play goal at home.
Yeah, it was
at home.
They scored last week.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I had forgotten about the Copa Tejas late one from Jesus. But anyway, at home, either way, they haven't won in 7. They are now hovering around the playoff line with the LA Galaxy. And that's not good. Any thoughts on Dallas? I mean, I think we've done Austin We've done our service to the Verde and Black.
I haven't seen at any point this season a belief that Jose Martinez is a high-level MLS center back. Hedges still is, but not even for 90 minutes every game, and not every game. And I think Tafari is taking a step back at best. So that, to me, is the biggest fear with this Dallas team, less the attack and more individually defensively. And then they're starting Tumwasi, Atan, and Marco Farfan still out injured. So Paz had to be big early in this game, and Dallas, I thought, strung together some good segments of play, but I don't know that that's not a winning formula in MLS.
Let's talk Philadelphia Union Revs. I'll just read some mail on the Revs, and we'll focus on Philly for a second here, Doyle. Mark Othot says, the Revs are making me sad. I like Kessler and Farrell, but they're not it right now. I want Altidore and Gonzalez gone. Petrovic, Barrero, and the Academy are giving me hope, though. Excited to be Veroni soon. Hoping to make the playoffs after having the most points ever is straight up wild. Tom Bogert also dropped the points dropped from winning positions in MLS this season. We know last year that the Revs were they had a stranglehold on leads and on close games. Well, this year they're 28th in points dropped from winning positions. They did it again this weekend, 3 points dropped to take them to 24 points dropped on the season. Speaking of FC Dallas, they have 15 points dropped. And that goes to what Dave was talking about. And at the top of that list, 0 points dropped for LAFC, which explains why they're on the lead in the Shield. How about Philly in this game? 2-1. We have Gemini Time saying Ura now at 6 goals in under 750 minutes, and the Union top 3 being one of the top goal-scoring trios. Are we starting to see an understanding develop between the 3 that can make them a dangerous tack? We have James Porter asking about McGlynn, his left foot, and his development. And everybody's saying see you in the playoffs. What do you see from Philly right now?
I like the way that Jim's using the roster, even when you just look at the lineup, because Ura came off the bench in this one. And Aronson and McGlynn go from the start, and I think they talked about it during the U20 qualification where they went there, and I think there was like 3 or 4 guys that got pulled away, and then they were saying, okay, yeah, we can move on from Sergio Santos because we're gonna start playing these guys, as the Philly way from the academy, and I thought both of them had good matches. And are going to still be able to continue to grow. I love the way McGlynn is able to kind of sit deep, find balls, distribute. There was a long stretches, especially in the beginning of the game, where it looked like New England had sat back pretty deep and were just creating a very deep block of their midfield was sitting really far back, and McGlynn and some of the guys were just looking to stretch them out by shooting from distance, and eventually things softened up a little bit, and they were able to get some set pieces and apply some pressure. But I like the way that Jim is using their roster. I think you look at some of the teams right now across the league, and teams are looking worn out across the board in a lot of cases. And I think the idea that you're going to use this time to really develop the young players to the first part of the season, they get some meaningful minutes, but now's their kind of chance to really take a bigger step forward makes a ton of sense as you look at what's the word, periodization of a season and how you kind of build. And when you look at their place in the table, that makes a lot of sense. We've seen Philly do this again in the past as well in their Supporter Shield winning season as well.
All right, I'm going to go Inter Miami, Charlotte. That's some good stuff there, Kalen. 3-2 Inter Miami. They're down 2-0 in the first half to Charlotte. Yordi Reyna, the second goal in particular, just absolute filth. Ray Hudson had himself a field day with that finish. Just loved it. I mean, dozens of roses tied to feet and, belly dancers on surfboards. And I guess that was the Taylor goal. But he was on one in this game. Gonzalo Higuain, second straight game with a goal, Doyle. I know you can really identify. Just a beautiful finish, vintage Gonzalo stuff, Napoli, Juve, first touch, diagonal run, perfect finish across his body, the balance, the power, the footwork, just everything about it, absolutely great. And you mentioned the playoff implications in that entire segment of the Eastern Conference. Well, these are teams right around that playoff line, currently below it. What did you see from Miami, and what have you seen from Phil Neville? I mean, it feels like sort of our complaints about who they were and what Phil was building have dissipated a good bit.
No, they have. Since he benched Higuain back in early April, this team is 7 wins, 5 losses, 3 draws, which is a playoff pace. And I think right now they're 2 points below the playoff line in the Eastern Conference.
Yep, just behind.
So they're in a really good spot. They've played a lot better. The big thing with this team once they put Higuain on the bench was they had an ethos, and it was everybody works and everybody runs. Right? There were no luxury players in that 11. And so for a good chunk of time, if they weren't able to run you into the ground, they weren't really able to create all that much. They were lacking a little bit of magic. And I think what happened with the Pazuello acquisition was they felt good enough about their foundation that they were willing to bring in a guy who's really not going to add anything to you defensively. He's actually going to take some stuff off the table defensively, and they're willing to make that sacrifice because of the solidity of the rest of the team. That it's worth it to have a magical number 10. The first half, that was not a good bet because Pozuelo was absolutely terrible in the first half of this game. Second half, he was really good. I thought he was actually very good in the second half, though he wasn't the one who made the difference. It was that bench mob. It was, Gonzalo Higuain, who now has 2 goals in 2 games, in his last 2 games, coming off the bench. He's only started 1 time since April. He could have hung it up and said, all right, that's fine. I'll just collect a paycheck for the rest of the year and then be done. But, he clearly has, to some level, bought into a bench role. So he came on at the hour mark. Emerson Rodriguez, who got the game-winning goal, he came on about the hour mark as well. And then Bryce Duke, who, as you mentioned, is going to lose playing time to Pozuelo, he came on as well. And all 3 of those guys were just massive. All 3 of those guys changed the game. And with Higuain, it's obvious. He has that level of skill. If he's going to go empty the tank for 30, 35 minutes every week, that's fantastic. That is such a game changer that you have. And, credit to him and to Phil Neville for buying in on that. With Emerson, he's a young winger. You don't know really what you're going to get. But Bryce Duke, part of the reason they were able to start winning back in April is Bryce Duke came into that midfield and was able to do Latif Blessing style stuff. He didn't do it at the level that Latif did it at in 2019 and into 2020, but just in terms of getting pressure to basically everyone on the other team everywhere, having enough awareness and skill when that pressure leads to a turnover to play good passes. Not often defense splitting passes like we saw in the game winner, but passes that are functional and move the entire team into a better spot where they can put the opponent, make the opponents turn and run at their goal. Simple stuff like that. And it's all kind of come together. This is not the best team in the league by any stretch. Even if Pozuelo returns to his MVP form, they're not going to be the best team in the league. But they can be really good. And what's happened, the reason is because they have an identity, they have an ethos, they have a locker room that seems to have bought into it, including the DP who got benched for 3 months, and you don't see that a lot in MLS, and I think it bodes well for the stretch run.
The other thing that'll be interesting to watch, just the other piece of this was at halftime, bringing Christian McVie into center back and bringing Gibbs in, which allows Bryce Duke to come off the wing, and he pretty much played centrally the whole time, because Gibbs gives width, which McPhee doesn't. So I'll be interested to see how Phil Neville handles that back line. And if Duke does become a starter and, whoever's playing out on the left is pinching in, can Gibbs play those minutes? And if not, can McPhee give you that? And if not, is there another piece out there? But that was a really big move from him at halftime as well.
They were down 2-0, needed to make a move. Came back 3-2 winners. Minnesota United basically just dominated DC United in a battle of Uniteds in Minnesota. West Burdine basically said we had to spend 30 minutes on this game. And I'll apologize in person, West, at Blackheart on the Sunday before All-Star. 7 p.m. Eastern, or not Eastern, 7 p.m. local, so that's Central Time. Seems to be where we're going to do the live show there. We're working on getting the budget together for some complimentary beverages for all those who want to come and hang out and listen to the show as we talk about the weekend and sort of transition things into All-Star Week as well. We'll get you more details on that in the coming days. Emmanuel Reynoso, 2 goals. He is the hottest player in the league, arguably. I mean, it's 7-2 since the international break. Minnesota unbeaten in 5, 4 straight wins. This feels to me like this is Minnesota's trying to time these runs. This is what it was in the playoffs. When they get Reynoso in a place where he's absolutely on, he amplifies everybody around them. It sort of feels to me like Robin Ludd behind him is now sort of the Kevin Molino, but who does more, if that makes sense. That can sort of amplify it around and make it easier for Reynoso to be in these positions. But when he's feeling it like this is what that 4-2-3-1 is about. It's about giving him freedom, about the ability to find space, get on the turn, and once he does that, he's so good that he either creates chances or finds areas of the pitch where he can be goal dangerous. And when he's in those spots, he's just completely lethal. But I just don't know if that's sustainable for an entire season. Can Reynoso be at this level for 34 games and into the playoffs? I think we've already seen that no, probably not. But when he is, they're really, really hard to beat.
He's never done this before, by the way. He's got 9 goals this year. That's more than his first 2 years in MLS combined with the playoffs. Like, this is different for him. So, yeah, the question if he can sustain it, I think, is reasonable. But it's been fascinating to watch, and the way him and Amarillo have connected up top and how high he has sat both, when they're defending and in possession has been really interesting. And I didn't know Robin Ludd could play center mid. That was not a thing I knew.
To me, that's the Ludd effect, right?
Yeah, but he
can rely on a dude to move the ball and to see him in the positions he needs to get to advance the ball without him.
He's now played center forward, wing, and center mid at a high level for Minnesota United. That's a pretty reliable signing.
Let's talk on the DC side real quick. And Anders is laughing in the chat about me now speeding things up. Again, I know my team, Anders. Stephen Goff reporting that Julian Gressel was traded to the Vancouver Whitecaps last week after we recorded $900K in general allocation money. Probably the first of a few moves. Julian Gressel not happy about that. He didn't have an inkling he was being shopped. He found out basically as everybody at the facility was finding out via the tweets. His wife found out before he was able to talk to his wife. You can go read Pablo Maurer's article at The Athletic with comments from Julian, which I think is a pretty illuminating article. Julian not happy, sort of airing some things out about the direction of the club or lack thereof, and how he felt like that move went down. The reasoning here is that DC is going to eliminate the wingback. So, Vancouver have them, and Julian Gressel, one of the best crossers in the league, one of the best wingbacks in the entire league, has been for a while now, so it makes sense he holds value for the Whitecaps, but going to the 4-2-3-1 that works so well in the Lucharu era. Is Rooney go to that point? There's also talk of Ravel Morrison visiting DC this weekend on TAM. Well, you just opened up a TAM and senior roster spot by trading Gressel. Maybe Ravel Morrison is a replacement there. And then this morning, Tom Bogert reported that according to sources and many other have confirmed now that Miguel Berry from the Crew to DC is going down $225 in GAM to add to their just squadron of center forwards. So what you have Nigel Robertha, you have Ola Kamara, you have Michael Estrada, now you have Miguel Berry. Doyle, what do you think's going on in DC, and does it all make sense?
I mean, it looks like a 4-4-2 team, right? With all those center forwards. I think Taxi's best position is probably as like a second forward in a 4-4-2 more than like a Reynoso style playmaker in a 4-2-3-1. So getting Barry at that number makes a ton of sense, especially because Ola's older and you don't know how much longer he's got. And
last year contract too, I believe.
Yeah, last year contract, and then Estrada's on loan and he hasn't been great, and Roberta hasn't been great. So it seems to be heading in that direction. But the thing with DC is every time they take the field, they're out talented. They almost never do they have more talent than the team they're lining up against. And I think that what we're really seeing here is the first stages of a complete roster overhaul, and I'm not sure that that's the wrong idea.
It does go back to the identity side. What is it? We've said it for a long time. They were saying we want to be high press, very direct. Then you go get Rooney. He's going to I'm sure part of the deal with him is like you're gonna build in his vision, man.
It's such a behind the times decision to play like that, because like people have been doing high pressing, super direct stuff in this league since Peter Vermees was the first back in 2010, but the Red Bulls really brought it to the fore in 2015, and like teams are smarter about it now. They're press resistant. They understand how to play out of that. So if you're tossing everything into that hat in 2022. It's not the money ball way to win anymore. It just isn't. I hope they have some clarity in what their direction is. And if you read that story by Pablo in The Athletic, it causes some real concern that maybe they don't.
Well, the flip side of the clarity is how long is Wayne going to be there?
Need clarity on that too.
What if he may have the idea that it's going to be XYZ, but if an offer comes in that is the next step that he needs to take in his career, there's just a lot to break down in that. DC making some moves. We'll see if they work out for them. Gressel, the Whitecaps seems like a good move. Whitecaps go to Portland, draw 1-1.
Brian White had to have been stoked when he heard the Gressel news, and then Raposo plays in that ball, and it has been the best week of 2022 for Brian White. He is living life, and he's living large. Him and Cavallini with Gressel, the way he plays, I mean, he might be the highest usage player on that team once he gets there, down that right wing, and it seems like a lot of it fits together. Blackman's been okay, hasn't been great, and gives up the penalty in this one. But the ball from Raposo, obviously the left side, but that's what you're hoping to start seeing from Gressel, time in and time out down that right wing. And it now maybe frees up how do you use Dahome, who is Kubas's partner. Man, I would love, no offense, to not have to tune into a Russell Tybert game every week, but not my decision.
I left the tweet out of here. I didn't think we would get to it, but you just did. From a Caps fan saying, do we have to hit the Russell Tybert?
At least Baldissimo got minutes this time, and he's not with Whitecaps 2 anymore, so hopefully he's finding his feet.
But with the way he played in this game, I'm not sure he's going to be getting many more minutes.
But on this note, 2222 player of the weekend presented by Body Armor goes to Isaac Boehmer, the Caps goalkeeper. And they had Maxime Crepeau, and they traded him, and apparently they just had a squad of like U23 goalkeepers just hanging out, just ready for action. They've got Thomas Hasal. They've gone through a bunch of different guys. It was Isaac Boehmer in this case. Had a nice game for Vancouver. Let's go.
A huge game. I mean, he had a couple of saves in the second half that were, and shout out to the Ivasic on the other side. Like his save, this double save off the Caps kickoff for the second half. The Caps are one of the few teams that run like scripted plays off the second half kickoff. And this one was absolutely spectacular. Ended up with White getting a look from 6 yards out, and then the follow-up, the rebound fell to him, and he put it right on Galt's foot from like 4 yards out, and Ivasic saved both of those. He has been really, really good for this Portland team.
Speaking of great saves, Pedro Gallese robbing Dom Dwyer was, good Lord, one of the best saves I've ever seen. And Dom Dwyer's face said a lot on that one. Atlanta won, Orlando won. You got a flip side of the goalkeeping, Atlanta, Rocco Rios Novo, hanging out on his post, man. When the referee blows the whistle, Rocco.
Are we gonna make a big deal out of this? Like he clearly didn't hear the whistle.
Yeah, did anyone hear it? I obviously were watching on TV. Has anyone gone back?
I mean, it's not just a whistle. There's also the referee makes the arm motion to say ball in play.
Yeah, I think it's like obviously it's a giant mistake. I think it's a reasonable explanation to say like he just missed it, and like that kind of. Like, it can happen.
The one thing
we've seen it happen to veteran teams.
The one thing, though, is
it's still a big mistake.
His mental clock at some point has to be like,
yes,
you're playing at this level. You got to get back in goal. You don't get 15 minutes to set up your wall.
I'm not burying the dude. I'm just saying it is a pretty significant mistake at home that you go down 1-0 on. Now, Atlanta just poured it on in the second half. Joseph Martinez banging posts. Obviously, Pedro Gallese doing his thing. There is some news here. From Tom, once again, Tommy Scoops. If you're not following him, at Tom Bogart on Twitter. Orlando City finalizing the acquisition of Nico Giacchini from France, free transfer, and the French club will retain a sell-on percentage. Giacchini turns 22 this week. We've seen him with the USMNT. This was like this was a smart signing for Orlando City.
I would agree.
I think he scored a couple goals with the national team.
Yeah.
The best part of it, is the free transfer part. So to be able to get a player. For nothing is really good scouting or good business to be able to get out there and get him. So I think Orlando has needed a little bit extra up top. And so you add this guy to the front line, he's going to be very motivated, still young, ton of potential still, hasn't reached his top form yet. Just makes a ton of sense.
At what point did they go two up top? I mean, everyone is a center forward outside of Facundo Torres on that roster. So now they have Tesho, they have Kara, and they have Giacchini, who we've seen him play on the wing, but I don't think it's his natural position at all. But I agree with Kalen that if this talent is out there and available for what it sounds like, you just go and get it
done. We didn't mention this. Darren Eales off to Newcastle.
Nukes, baby. Go Tunes. Toon Army. That's the most I know about Newcastle.
Like an opportune time to make the jump.
Yeah, we talked about it for a while on MLS Today, so if you want to go listen, just search on any of your podcast apps or Spotify.
That's a good shot.
MLS Today. But we talked about it for a while, and I came away, I'll tell you most of what I said, which is I think it's a win-win-win. I think he gets out at a time when his stock is still at a high, and as it should be, because as much as we're going to talk on the field, off the field, they have been a historic success in Major League Soccer. The relevance that club has in that size of a market the way they've set themselves up, all of that. I think for the club, it's probably time to change some things, and this is a very easy way to do it. And then you also now can look around for Atlanta United and say, our former executive now runs a Premier League team, and I think it puts you in a stratosphere globally that's a little bit different as well. So I think it's positive for everyone around. Maybe not for Carlos Bocanegra. I don't know what his future will be, but I think in general around Atlanta United, this is a really good move and a really good moment. And I guess congrats to him as well for stepping up to now being the chief executive at a giant Premier League team.
Yeah, seemed like that was the goal all along. But Atlanta do have some work to do as far as on-field performances. So do the Sounders, Anders. 3 straight losses. Don't know if you know. Like, go to Chicago and lose 1-0? Oh, not good, not good. John Duran out for this one. He had an ankle issue. We didn't get to see the 18-year-old follow up his brace. But, yeah. Alexis Ray says Chicago Fire FC, the most WTF team in MLS. Discuss. Also, should we be worried about the Sounders, Doyle?
Which one do you want me to take?
I don't know. Forget the Sounders. Chicago Fire. What the heck?
Yeah. I don't know that this is a case of any massive adjustments from Ezra Hendrickson. Like it's still the same guys. They've just stopped making absolutely tragic mistakes and then gotten a little bit better play from the guys in the attack. Chris Mueller, Brian Gutierrez has been really good. I know he could have scored a couple goals this weekend, but even without that, he's been really good. Duran obviously had a nice game midweek in the win over Toronto. So just getting some good performances and not stepping on rakes in defense is a path toward respectability. And, last week at this time, I thought their season was over. After the way they collapsed against the Crew in the second half, 2-0 at home, lose 3-2, and like really just kind of lay down and die. They bounced back with 6 points. They're 4 points below the playoff line in the Eastern Conference. I don't think they're going to make it, but like I said 4 hours ago on the show, like you're absolutely insane if you have like rock solid takes on any of these teams in sort of the middle of the pack in the Eastern Conference, and that applies to the West as well.
Joe Mansueto, the owner. I admit much of the season has been frustrating. I don't think anyone is happy with where we are in the standings, but I feel like we're starting to hit our stride. Our place in the standings doesn't reflect the size of the payroll, but I would point out the season's not over. Let the season play out. We still have 13 games. There's still a lot of season to go. The story's not over yet for this year. I'm still optimistic we'll make the playoffs, and he says he's a fan of George Heitz's and gives him a vote of confidence. Mentioned some signings he got right. John Duran, Shihos, Federico Navarro, Chris Mueller, Jairo Torres, all those are good. I would point out the DPs haven't worked out very well, and we'll see what happens for the Fire the rest of the way. Still hoping I take that Malort shot. To wrap up the Sounders' suspicious look, will MLS media finally admit that the Sounders aren't that good this year? Sergeant Pickles, I'm stealing this comment from another Sounders fan. He says, but in addition to Rui Diaz being out, they still feel like they have a João Paulo-sized hole in the midfield, and I'm unsure it will improve. 3 straight losses for the Sounders. Galaxy lose, Rapids win, Jesse gets a goal, 2-0 Rapids at home. They needed that one. LA are sort of in the Dallas zone, which is there's a little bit of a free fall going on. 2 draws and a win in the last 3 for Colorado. All of those came after trading Mark-Anthony Kaye. So we have a Rapids fan asking whether trading Mark-Anthony Kaye was a good thing. And just rinse and repeat from JDB. Has Jonathan Lewis turned the corner? He's starting and finishing games lately. It's the Jonathan Lewis conversation. Maybe we'll get to that at a different date. But a big win for the Rapids. Big win for RSL at home against Sporting Kansas City. Look, Jefferson Savarino's good. They're good when Justin Glad plays. I don't want Salt Lake fans to think that I discount Justin Glad at all, even though I didn't think he should be in the All-Star game. But we have the chorus from Kansas City. Sporting Happy Rock Casuals. Sporting KC should just go in on the Open Cup and write off MLS this year. Andre Garave, what would be the implications of a U.S. Open Cup win and wooden spoon double for Kansas City?
Ooh, DC United 2013.
I know, that's where we're at. It's about 10 days until the semifinals of the Open Cup, and maybe Sporting Kansas City could host the final. So it certainly feels like Kansas City are kaput in the league, and we'll see what happens in the Open Cup. Maybe I'll be sticking around here for the live show we are going to do. And the final result here is San Jose 1, Houston 2. San Jose go up, Houston come back. Hector Herrera makes his first start. San Jose Earthquakes Q74 asks if San Jose fans should be mad they're not linked to any new players. And Old Quakes fan says he's been a Quakes fan his entire life. Donovan is part of the lawless cadre that betrayed our club. If Donovan becomes our manager, I will never watch another game. I am not alone in this opinion. What do you think about that, Kalen?
I kind of respect the pettiness on one level, just because it's like I was around the Bay Area when Landon was like winning titles and all that, which was amazing. But then, to go to the Galaxy and then see the success. Look, I'm bitter about it too, so I understand from a Quakes fan perspective. That said, I think Landon has proven to have a lot of success so far with San Diego Loyal. I think coming in and imparting his wisdom to this club would be an interesting hire. So I would definitely not write off any manager that like comes to your club. I don't think, especially one with a history of bringing titles to your club. So I'd probably say I respect the pettiness, but I'd probably try to work through that at some point. And if you haven't given up on
if you're still there
already by now, like you can make it a little longer. Keep going.
Like, don't give up now. Don't give up now. It's not. You have the team. You have the team. It's important. All right, that's it for us.
Can I just throw out a name for that though? I don't think it's gonna be Landon. I think it's gonna be Lucci. I think Lucci ends up with that San Jose job.
Oh, okay. After the World Cup, we'll have to wait and see as to what happens.
He was drafted by the San Jose Earthquakes, I believe, out of SMU. So there's some history there. It's a deep cut.
Which also for the fan is, by the way, you don't see big names connected. I think let your manager choose the players and sort of not assist them, but more of that rather than enforcing it on them. And that's kind of why San Jose is in a holding pattern in terms of the big signings right now.
We talked about the Eastern Conference and the pileup. In the Western Conference, from Minnesota, let's just say at 4 down to San Jose, it's a 9-point gap. It's basically 1.1 to 1.48, just like the East. I mean, it is absolutely just jammed together in the middle of these conferences, and we're going to see over the course of the late summer into the fall who gets into those top 7 spots and competes for MLS Cup. That's it for us, as always.
Wait. No, that's not it, because we have one more update, because we spent 40 minutes saying goodbye to Taty Castellanos. Reporting out now this was not his final game. He's actually going to play.
But he hugged people. People hug.
Come on, Taty. Come on. What are you hugging people for?
Awkward.
Come on.
This is awkward.
Keep the hugs behind closed doors.
Did we do a good job of keeping it to 5 minutes a game? I feel like we did. I mean, 5 minutes exactly.
I could have used a little longer with my dynamo towards the end. Come on, we rushed through.
We got time here. You want to throw it in there? I'm willing to give it to you.
No. The only thing I would say is like the pressure. They've been able to get some nice turnovers and apply some pressure to. I mean, San Jose didn't do themselves any favors with their passing out of the back, but yeah, I was impressed by that. And then the only thing I would add is I think Wando got a yellow card in this one from the bench. So it's a rivalry match. Houston, San Jose. Wando got a yellow card on the bench. Like we had to mention that on extra time.
That's the perfect end of this show. As always, if you want us to talk about something, we mixed a bunch of mail into this show. I put a tweet out on Mondays and Thursdays before we make the rundown, and we will drop you in there. That's it for us. We'll see you on Thursday, everybody. Have a great week. Adios. Congratulations, you made it through more than an hour of extra time. That means you love the show, and if you love the show, you probably want more episodes. Click right here for more episodes of Extra Time, and here to subscribe to the MLS YouTube channel. Thanks for following along.